You're listening to the Behind the Tee podcast, hosted by your favorite club curlers, Rob and Kelly. The show where we share our thoughts on what's happening in the curling world with the internet. But let's be real, we end up talking about football half the time anyways. Hey, Rob, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you, Kelly?
Pretty good. Unfortunately, I don't have much to report on today in terms of curling. There hasn't been much action going on in the curling world this past week. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I don't think that's true. I think there actually is quite a bit of stuff going on.
I think it's just because the past couple of weeks have just been explosions of curling drama, and we're
That's right.
Yeah.
And let's let the listeners in behind the scenes here. The way we do this is we record on Sundays, and after we're done recording, we talk for a while about, oh, shoot, we should have said that. And I think for 3 weeks in a row, we've forgotten to get this out. So let's do this right now.
Oh, yeah? Or is it old news now?
Oh, it's really old news. We're super late to the party, especially considering anybody who's listening to this is going to hear it, I guess, a month after the fact. But Hey, Kelly, Team Botcher broke up.
Oh my God.
I know.
Because we haven't talked about it or read about it enough.
For personal reasons, get that. Yeah, so we've talked ad nauseum about this, but one thing that we've kept questioning is, I forget, what was it again that we keep meaning to bring up?
Okay, I got you covered here. So the first thing we're surprised they didn't do is, so Darren Moulding found out he was no longer on Botcher's team via a team meeting. They were all present in the same room. And then Botcher released that statement about a half hour after that meeting, enough time where Moulding didn't even have time to get home. And it was just curious to see why Botcher didn't present the statement to Moulding during the meeting, or had a discussion hey, obviously this is going to explode on social media, but how do you want, or how should we just address it as Moulding, and then Botcher kind of prepare joint statements, if you will.
Right.
Could have avoided this entire catastrophe.
Absolutely.
And then our second point
is, now I remember. Yeah. What does the rest of the team have to say here? It's got to be really awkward to be dragged along through this horrible PR mess. And so I'm very curious what Karek and Brad, and actually Dawn as well, Dawn's been thrown under the bus, what they have to say about all of this.
I mean, I feel that this is going to sound harsh, but Botcher did enough damage, and this is more of a damage control of everyone else on the team. Just don't say anything to not make the situation worse.
Yeah, I think they know not to say anything, but I wonder what they must be feeling. It's got to be awkward.
It's got to be so awkward, especially since Karek and Moulding were such close friends.
Yeah.
But, this, again, always happens in the curling world. It's not anything new. But if any of them ever write a tell-all book, I hope that there's a whole chapter about this in their book.
There really has to be. Again, our recurring theme this year is Slide to Survive. Not to plug another Netflix special, but this is what we want. We want a Netflix special about all the curling drama. This was a good idea, and we've not had to do anything. The different episode ideas have come rolling in.
I know.
Or sliding in, I should say.
We're going to have to start tagging Netflix in our Instagram posts. Hopefully a producer will catch it and get in contact with us.
That's right.
Because those are my goals for 2022. I don't know about you.
Yes, exactly. This is fun, but it's time for us to start making some cash.
I know. The sponsorship deals haven't been rolling in.
I know. I wonder why. Oh, speaking of sponsorship, here's another lost opportunity at sponsorship. I tried Tim Biebs this week.
Yes. How was it? I still have not managed to get my hands on some Tim Biebs.
We were hoping to do this live during the podcast. So I've been not going to Tim Hortons, but somebody brought them into work, and I couldn't just sit there and not try them. So my review is they're good. I mean, I like Timbits, but they're not very good. There's nothing game-changing about them.
I heard they're really, really sweet.
Yeah, and they may be more expensive too.
Well, of course, it's a promotional thing.
Oh, but they should. They should not be worth any more. But I don't know, because I just heard that from somebody. But
wait, what's the going rate for Timbits right now? Are they 10 cents, 20 cents a Timbit?
Oh, I don't even know. I'm okay. Let's actually.
At one point, I feel like you could have gotten like you could get a box of 10 Timbits for like $2 or something.
Okay, let's check this out. 10 Timbits are $1.99.
Okay.
Um,
What year was it posted? Because I feel inflation
oh
must have
yeah,
played a
no,
part
that
in
says
that.
sorry, that says 2019. You know when you Google something and you just get the first result, like
Yeah, this is an indication of how often we go to Tim Hortons. We have no idea what the prices are these days.
I know it's crept up a little bit in recent years.
Yeah, while you're searching, I'll let the listeners in on what I've heard about them. So essentially, it's the same. Like the Timbit itself is the same as the ones
It
they've had
is.
before.
It
It's
is.
really just the coating that's changed or that Bieber created. And the coating is really thick and really, really sweet. So if you're not into those like really sweet Timbits, you might not be a fan of this.
Yeah, and I remember like whatever flavors they said, couldn't really taste them. It was just like
Yeah.
a lot of sugar on top of your
Uh,
your standard Timbit, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
I guess so. I really like the just the regular glazed Timbit.
Yeah, me
I think
too.
it's the
Those are my
best one.
favorite.
And I love how, so I guess here in Canada, it's quite a common thing for if someone is visiting the office or it's like a Friday and someone wants to do a good deed, they'll buy a box of like 50 Timbits and just leave it at the front for everyone to help themselves to.
Right?
And every time, without fail, at the end of the day, the Timbits that are left at the bottom of the box are always the chocolate ones. For some reason, no one likes, I don't even, they're my least favorite, but the
The
chocolate
chocolate
Timbit.
ones?
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
You're a
Uh,
chocolate Timbit eater?
absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Oh
Oh
no,
no, they're
the
the
worst ones. The worst ones are the honey dip. The ones that go instantaneously stale.
oh those aren't as bad as the chocolate ones. The chocolate ones are like they're too thick. Like the pastry is too coarse.
It's maybe, but I mean, oh no. Okay, and by the way, I have an answer to this. What a
Yes.
ripoff! Because Timbits, if you want to buy one Timbit, it's 29 cents. Okay, each
Wow.
individual Timbit is 29 cents. If you want a Timbeeb, 49 cents.
Half a dollar?
I know,
Jeez. Jeez.
I know. So yeah, well, I've already spent a lot of money on Christmas gifts. We're a couple of days away from Christmas, so maybe I won't splurge for any more Timbeebs. But yeah, I'm glad we looked that up.
Okay, well, is it worth the 50 cents?
No, got
Okay.
to be honest. I'm glad I tried it once.
Okay.
Everybody should try things once. But really, if we're going to be food critics, we should be paid to consume food, not have to pay for it ourselves, is my opinion. So
That's true. Yeah.
yes.
Well, I think we've lost that Tim Hortons sponsorship a
Well,
long
I'm gonna
time
get them
ago.
back here. I'm gonna get them back here with a very lame segue. But speaking of Tim Hortons, last week at Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton. Now that, my friends, is a segue. Uh, home of the Hamilton Tiger Cats of the CFL. That's where the Grey Cup was played. Did you
Mhm.
watch it, Kelly?
I did not. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I know you
come
told
on.
me to, and we specifically recorded early to account for it, but I did not.
I know, and because we make a lot of football analogies on the show, and usually the NFL, but I think it's time we show the CFL some love. The Grey Cup game was insane.
I heard.
It was like it was pretty close the whole game, and then at the very end, it got really, really intense. Hamilton was the underdog. They were, and I think they built up a pretty big lead, and they were just desperately trying to hold on. They surrendered the lead with not much time left to go in the game, and then they had to. I'm going to get this wrong. They're down by 2. Okay,
Okay.
with one more possession to go. And I'm glad we're talking about this because there's actually a big parallel to curling here. So, did you know that in Canadian football, when you miss a field goal, if you kick the ball through the end zone, or if you kick the ball through the end zone while you're punting, you get a single point?
Really?
Yeah, the Rouge, I think it's called.
Like in the NFL, they get 3 points.
No, a field goal is still 3 points. It's
Oh,
if you
okay.
miss the field goal, but the
You
ball
still
goes
get a
out of
point.
the end zone, you get a bonus, or you get 1 point. And
Oh,
it's kind of hard because the end zone in Canada is huge,
right.
but it makes a big difference because when you, for instance, you're doing a kickoff or or a punt or whatever, when you're kicking the ball, what kickers always try to do is they try to kick it so that it goes out of bounds at like the 1 yard line.
Mhm.
which is really good because the other team will be starting right at their own goal line. But if they accidentally kick it into the end zone, instead the team starts at the, I don't know, 35 or something like that. I'm probably wrong. But you get a point for it. What's interesting about it is that all the kickers are always mad when they kick it into the end zone because they're like, shoot, I failed to kick them out at get it out at the one. But you got a point, and it just, quick curling aside, to me it's like you tried to blank and you missed and you took your one.
Like you tried to hit and roll out, but you ended up hit and sticking.
But when you think about it, especially at our level, it's
Mhm.
not that bad a thing. Like, it's much worse to miss the rock and give up the steal, but like
Mhm.
scoring a point, I mean, hey, how many games have we seen that have been decided by 1 point? So when you do
Yeah.
that in the second or third end,
I mean, like, for us, like, at the club level, you take it all day, but, like, Ben Hebert would probably be throwing an F-bomb right now.
oh, I know. Yeah. At that level, for sure. And so what's interesting, and this is what a lot of people are talking about, is that when you're returning a kickoff or a punt, if you feel like you're not going to be able to run it very far, you can put your knee down in the end zone. Like if you catch it in the end zone, you'll give the other team a single point, but you'll start with good field position. And so what happened was, on this last possession of the game for Hamilton, the Winnipeg kicker kicks it.
Mhm.
The Hamilton receiver catches it in the end zone, and it looks like he's got a lot of room to run for maybe a good 20 yards or so. He puts his knee down and gives up
Oh.
a single point. He gets good field position, but the problem is Hamilton was losing by 2, field goal for the win. Now they're losing by 3.
Field goal for the tie. Why did he do that?
I know it's being talked about. I think you're trained to do that, but really what you should have done is realized it's the last possession of the game. Like
Run.
early in the game, you would for sure do that. And it's the kind of thing, like in football, like they don't really, no one's taking the blame for it because you don't want to throw anybody under the bus. But
Mhm.
anyway, so Hamilton puts together a pretty good drive. They go all the way down to the other end of the field, and they actually throw a touchdown pass for the win, and somebody drops it.
Oh,
They dropped it in the end zone, and they had to go for the field goal, which they made. It went to overtime, and Winnipeg won.
no.
But
Okay.
they got down to like the 5-yard line. If they were down by 2, game over. They
Right. They
win.
would have a field goal and they would have won. I wonder if that the catcher just put a knee down out of automatic reflex. Like you're in the end zone, you catch it, knee down, and didn't even like take a second to assess the field.
I think so. Yeah, like we really know what we're talking about
Yeah.
here. I think it's one of those things, but it was really fascinating, and it was one of those moments I was watching it going, oh my God, what a game. This is so interesting. And I was really happy that I really did not give a who won the game.
Yeah.
Because if you were a diehard fan of one of those teams, oh my goodness,
Oh.
here's another heart attack. And coming off the heels of the Jennifer Jones versus Tracy Fleury game and the Formula One thing, which I'll have to take your word for, we've seen a lot of exciting championship finals, and just the
Right.
Grey Cup was another one on the pile.
Right. Well, do you know what the next big championship event is?
Well, the Manitoba women's finals.
Okay, no. But we got the Super Bowl coming up in February. I think that's the next big final before we
Yeah.
enter the season of champions and the Olympics
Actually, I think the Tournament of Hearts is going to happen before the Super Bowl, I think.
in
Because
January.
it's an Olympic year. Yeah, like
Oh, right.
everything gets moved up a little bit early.
Okay. But is the Scotties going to be as interesting this year? Because it looks like a lot of the big names may not be there.
I know some very interesting developments. First of all, not a lot has happened yet, but Manitoba has gotten their provincials underway, I would say obscenely early. Like,
Yes.
I've never heard of a Tournament of Hearts provincials before Christmas, but here they are.
I think you said Fleury has officially been eliminated from
She has been.
competition. Yeah. I saw a headline last night, though, that she had to win her game and Zacharias had to lose her game. So I assume
Yeah,
Zacharias won and therefore eliminated
she did. She
Fleury.
needed to win and get help. She won, but she didn't get the help.
Yeah.
And
What
what's
a
interesting is,
bad year for her. I feel so
I
bad.
know. Oh, I know. What a horrible turnaround that must be, to go from the most I imagine anyway, the most heartbreaking loss you could possibly have to having to turn around and like dial it right back up in the women's provincials. It's just, not to make that an excuse, and I'm sure they wouldn't make that an excuse as well, but how
But
can
I'm
you
not
expect them to be
surprised.
at their
Yeah,
best?
because they lost the chance to go to the Olympics. What, a couple weeks ago? A month?
Yeah, it was
Not
just
even a
like
month.
3 weeks ago, I think.
And to turn that around, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not, or I don't want to say I don't blame them. I'm not surprised that they didn't perform well at the provincials. I don't
No,
think a lot of people would.
no, and it's
And speaking of a lot of people, who else is not doing good right now, Rob?
no, yes. So how's Rachel doing? Let's just check in on.
So the Ontario still hasn't done their provincials. They're still in
They're in
their
the regional
playdowns.
phase, right? Yeah.
And Miss Homan and her team is on their last leg. They're hanging on to get a spot.
True. Although that said, I think they have to win 2 games, and according to what I see, they just won their first game by a score of 15-6.
Okay.
So let's just see. That means that Rachel is now playing. So she's playing against Caitlin Wasselq.
Mhm.
I'm not quite sure who that is. In 3 minutes, actually, from when
Okay.
we're recording this. The winner goes to the provincials. The loser is eliminated. And I would assume there is no last chance
Mhm.
event for. I'm assuming this is it.
Yeah, I mean, I do not know the details of the Ontario playdowns, but I would assume. And I think too, I saw somewhere. I was like, God, we're like so not prepared for today's podcast. But for
It
the
gets worse. I'll
Scotties,
tell you later.
for the Scotties, there's always a wild card spot.
Right.
And so even if, let's say, Holman does not make it out of Ontario, there's a very high chance that she will not get that
Oh,
wild
she
card
will.
spot.
She will be in the wild card spot.
Oh, she will?
She will. It will be Tracy Fleury will be in it. One of the listeners I was speaking to told me this morning, like Tracy Fleury is the #1 team in the world, so she has the wild card spot. Well, it's a wild card game now, right? So they
Oh,
have to
okay.
play off. So it would be, I think it Fleury first, Jennifer Jones second. She's not going to be around, and I think Homan was third. So
Oh,
the wild card game would be.
I don't know. I saw somewhere on Facebook that Chelsea Carey would get the spot. Would
But Chelsea Carey plays with Fleury.
because there's a post with like Homan on her last leg, and they're like, no, she won't get the wild. She's not eligible for the wild card because there's other people.
Is this on Facebook?
Yeah, I saw it this afternoon, but it was posted on like a curling zone thing, and he like wrote a comment. Hold on, let's see. Hold on, let's see if I can find it. So someone wrote, isn't she guaranteed a wild card play in game against Fleury if she doesn't eventually win Ontario? And then not at all. Harrison, Walker, and Carey will all pass Homan by simply playing in their respective provincials. Homan absolutely needs to make it through this or their Scotties bid is
Oh,
over.
okay. Yeah, because of right now. Like
Yeah.
if
Seriously, what had Carey even done? So they played in 7 events, qualified in 6. Homan played in 6 events and qualified in 4. Points in the playoffs are exponential based on your final standing. Carey won an event in Saskatoon, made it into 3 semis. Homan lost in the quarters in all 4 events.
I didn't even know that Chelsea had her own team.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, wouldn't that be interesting?
And she
So
didn't have a team last year, but
no,
this year
and
she
she
must
was
have a
at the
team.
trials with Fleury. Like she would have gone to the Olympics with her. But
Yeah, but the trials is different.
I thought that Rachel would be a lock for the wild card game if she loses, but
Yeah.
probably not.
She hasn't
Maybe.
been having a great year.
No, I mean, well, yeah, the trials speak for themselves, don't they?
But in terms of other events, hasn't been the best.
No, so it'll be very interesting. We'll have to keep our eye on that tonight.
Mhm.
Just like how I'm keeping my eye right now on the Manitoba final. If you notice a drop in caliber in this podcast, you can probably now tell why. Remember last year when we tried doing a podcast while watching a game at the same time, and it was
It was
awful?
horrible, awful. Cannot multitask.
I know. I'm doing the same thing. I've got the Manitoba final on. I'm looking at you, but as if you see me looking up, I'm looking at my TV. But it's interesting because so Tracy Fleury had a good week, I believe, to start. She made the championship pool, but they only take the top 3 teams in Manitoba. So there was a 3-way tie for first place. I believe everybody was 6-2, 7-2, something like that. So Mackenzie Zacharias got a bye to the final by virtue of the head-to-head. The semifinal was played between Caitlin Jones, who I've heard of. Like she's a pretty decorated junior, and I knew a couple of the players on her team, against Christy Watling. And with respect, I have never heard of Christy Watling, nor have I heard of any of the players on her team.
Mm-hmm.
But they won the semifinal. They are in the final right now. It's in the fourth end, and they're tied. It's could go either way at this point.
I love how much energy you put into like provincial playdowns.
Oh, it's fun.
I'm a national level only. I have to set my boundaries because there's too many sports to follow, and my boundaries are national events.
I'm gonna work on this. We used to do me and some gonna make ourselves sound like such curling nerds, but everybody knows we already are. But on one of the teams I used to play on, we used to make predictions of who would win each province, and we'd keep track. It'd be like a little pool, which I kind of think we should do because hell, we're doing an NFL pool, and what do we know about that?
Yeah, but at least all those pools are automated. I'm not going to manually keep track
I
of
don't want to keep track of this,
all
but
the provincial games.
no, but it is interesting that because when you do look at whoever comes out of every province, you've almost always heard of them, or you've heard of some of them, or. But I think this is the first time, or this is the farthest I've seen a team that I've never heard of go.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, I mean, we see it in maybe Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. Sorry, sorry to all our Atlantic listeners. But to win Manitoba and having no one ever heard of you, that'd be quite something. So I hope they do it. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, well, to make a comment on the state of curling across Canada and how it's so uneven, just looking at Manitoba, how intense the competition is. Spoke about Ontario, how you have to play regional playdowns just to get to provincials.
Right.
And just the state of, let's say, Quebec, where you just sign up and go to provincials. And this year, there was, 3 women's team that signed up?
Yeah, it's pretty embarrassing, I have to say, that I think like our senior provincials get way more than that. And I'm tempted to be like, I think we should go to some of the junior teams and the seniors teams in Quebec and be just like, hey, can you play in the Tournament of Hearts provincials? I know you're probably not going to win, but you might. They did that once and it did happen. A junior team did win it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, I kind of struggled with too. It's like, look, everyone in the province kind of knows that, let's say you win the chance to go to the Scotties, odds are you're not going to win the Scotties. There's such a difference in caliber between those top Western teams and the rest of the pack. It's kind of torn because, like, you want to go and play and you can potentially win, but then to go get destroyed in the Scotties, and that's just it takes a lot of time. You got to take time off work. It costs a lot of money that we just don't have here because we don't have the same level of sponsorship and money as the Western teams do. So I can see why some teams would rather just play the seniors or play in juniors and not the Scotties because of that.
I know, but
it's unfortunate. It's totally unfortunate.
It's true, but I still feel like take your shot when the provincials roll around.
Mm-hmm. Also, the provincials are in the middle of nowhere where it's going to take you 10 hours to drive in January. That's a huge factor as well.
When you have to start doing the math about if we win the provincials and we go to Thunder Bay, now which is closer, Thunder Bay or the part of Quebec that we have to...
It's probably easier to get to Thunder Bay than the part of Quebec where the provincials are being held.
I know. There was a time when I think one of the provincials we went to where we were like, if we make the nationals, it'll be a much shorter drive than... And it was not in province.
Exactly. And also when you have to keep in mind during provincials, you have to take time off work. You have to stay there. They're a week long. So you have to pay for lodging, food, and all that stuff. It's and to get there. So it's really not cheap at all.
It adds up to be a lot. And if you want to get to the provincials, like realistically, you have to do other tournaments as well. And there's times when I miss that kind of life, Kelly, of like going on the road and playing in tournaments. It was fun. But then I remember being like, I have to go to school on Monday or work on Monday and being completely exhausted, usually sick.
Or you're doing your homework in the car, like with a little light on.
Oh, it was awful. Yeah. Like I don't miss that part at all. And it was kind of nice when we were kids and our parents were paying for it.
Yeah, exactly.
But now like it's, I'm kind of at peace with not doing it.
The money, honestly, for me is a big thing. because you're like, oh, I can spend $500 on this curling tournament, or I can go to a show or a nice restaurant or like something else, so it makes a huge difference.
Exactly. Not to dump on the Cajot Sport in Val d'Or. That is a nice restaurant.
Is it the only restaurant in Val d'Or?
No, there were a few others, but we sampled them all during that week.
Oh dear.
Oh, I do miss it though at times, but
Yeah, there's some.
yeah.
I feel like there's like a nostalgia factor to it because every time the Scotties come on TV, I always, or even watching the Worlds, I'm just like, should I do it? I want to do it. I want to go back to it. And then the summer rolls around, and then you're like, actually, life's kind of good without traveling across the province.
Mm-hmm. I have to get back to the Manitoba thing for just a sec, though. First of all, because as you know, I'm watching it live. Mackenzie Zacharias just made a shot facing 3. She just papered a guard. If she wrecks, that's a steal of 3 right there. So pretty tight game so far. But I have to say, I watched a good chunk of the semi-final this morning between Caitlin Jones and Christy Watling, who I only learned of today.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, in my opinion, it was one of the all-time worst games I've ever seen on TV.
Is this the one where the skip curled 43%?
Yes, and the other skip curled 63% or something like that. And that was maybe those numbers climbed a bit from when I sent you that picture. And I've been around people my whole life that watch somebody like Brad Gushu and Brad Jacobs and say, "Oh, the caliber of this curling is awful," or "Oh, they keep missing shots." I'm really turned off by like that persistent negativity that you get in some people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying not to be that guy right now, but it was really, really bad. The number of misses by both teams like with big opportunities for 4s and 5s and then picking out their own and doing things like that. It was pretty ugly.
Expecting everyone to curl a 95% game is an incredibly high standard to hold them to. However, curling a 43% game is extremely bad at that level.
I know, but paradoxically, there was something very interesting about it, I felt, because, again, to bring it back to the women's Olympic trials finals, I don't even remember a thing about the Brad Gushu, Brad Jacobs game, except that I think we were all spent by the time it rolled around and that it was completely...
Boring.
It was too well played.
Yeah.
When the teams are that good, it becomes chess, because chess is not about... You have to execute your moving of the piece. It became pretty boring.
I guess what we see a lot in men's play is not so much, like you said, the execution or are they going to make this shot or not? They're going to make the shot. It's really just what shot are they going to play, when, and how. It's really more like strategic based. Whereas the women's game, not to hate on the women, but it's a little more dicey in the sense of like,
that's it.
Anyone can miss a shot and that will throw the whole end in a...
Yeah, and this comedy of errors that was the Manitoba semi-final it was interesting, because even though one team had a 4-point lead at one point, you knew that it was not necessarily over, which is a nice thing to have, I got to be honest. It's a refreshing change from all the... I feel like I watch so many men's teams that take a 2-point lead and the game is over. They're not going to blow that. So it was nice. And in their defense, I mean... How nerve-wracking does it have to be in the semi-final of a Manitoba provincial, especially this year? Because I bet everybody's got this, we've got to break through this year mentality, because Jennifer Jones has been removed from the field. Carrie Einerson has been removed from the field. Tracy Fleury is just coming off the most devastating loss ever, like 2-3 weeks ago. It's now or never in Manitoba for everybody else.
Yeah, I can definitely see the nerves there, but still 43% is not acceptable.
Oh yeah, it was pretty bad.
To move on from talking about Manitoba here and broadcasting, so it's officially been announced that you'll be able to watch the Canadian mixed doubles curling trials on CBC.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it's the first time they're hosting it, because they didn't host the mixed trials last Olympics.
I remember watching it though.
Really? I mean, it was 4 years ago. It's a long time ago.
I do remember watching it. It was I remember seeing John Morris and Caitlin win. I forget who they beat, but anyway.
So it's going to be streamed on CBC, and it's going to be hosted by this guy called Bruce Rainey.
Oh yeah, we know him.
Mike Harris, know him as well.
The regular CBC commentators.
Yeah. And Joanne Courtney.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah, but I read this, and I mean, I haven't been following the mixed doubles scene at all, but Joanne Courtney has a mixed doubles team, and I was actually quite surprised that she wasn't part of the mix of.
Yeah, wasn't it with Darren Molding?
Yeah, but they're not. They didn't make it to the trials, so
Okay.
I guess that's why. Because her and Molding had quite a lot of success in mixed doubles, and they're actually the ones, if I remember correctly, they're the ones who won Canada's spot to the Olympics last time.
Yeah, that's right. And then Darren got injured in the bubble, but they were 3-0, I think, at the time. They were looking good.
No, I'm talking about something else here.
No, but I know you are, but I'm just saying,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
the
yeah.
follow-up year, yeah, they were
Okay.
good as well.
Yeah,
Sorry, go
yeah.
back to what you were saying.
So I was just gonna say that because when Morris and Caitlin Laws won the gold medal at the Olympics, like Caitlin Laws thanked Joanne Courtney and Darren Moulding because the only reason why they were able to
Oh,
play and
right. Okay,
win was because
yeah.
they got them that spot.
So that's further back than I thought.
Yeah, the last
Time is
Olympics.
an illusion.
So, anyways, it'll be interesting. I think it's like the first time that we have an actual like competitive curler that's still competing doing color commentary.
I've seen because I mean, you kind of dumped on all these provincial things, but Sportsnet generally shows the finals of or provincial finals of several provinces, and they usually get like Brad Gushu to come in and give his thoughts. And I've seen them bring in Caitlin and Jennifer before to give their thoughts. But they're not commentating actively on the game. They're just kind of in studio.
I wonder if Courtney is going to play the role of just explaining mixed doubles and the strategy behind it, or like why people are playing one shot versus the other, or something like that. Whereas Mike Harris and Bruce Rainey maybe do a little more of the
Yeah, the
color.
regular.
Yeah.
That'd be good because with respect to Mike Harris, I guess this is maybe not his. I mean, Mike Harris is a heck of a or was a heck of a curler. I'm sure he still is, but I mean, Joanne is right in the thick of this, right? She's in the prime of her career. It'd be interesting to have the perspective of a really elite mixed doubles player. Maybe I could learn something about like when we should play the power play because I have no
Yeah,
idea.
I'm still not sold on the power play, to be honest.
I know that's why we have to pay attention to this because mixed doubles strategy. I mean, I love the game, but the strategy is not my strongest point.
I'm just looking at the list of people who qualified. Jocelyn Peterman and Brett Gallant have qualified, but they won't be participating. Same with Jennifer Jones.
You know, in the States, they can do both. Like Matt Hamilton last time did both with.
Hold on a second here.
What?
Jennifer Jones curls out of Horse Valley, Ontario?
Well, she's from Winnipeg, but is that well, where does she live? Because Brent
don't
for
know.
sure is from Ontario.
I thought Brett moved to
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg. But no, so Jennifer Jones and Brett Lang have a mixed doubles team, and they qualified to the trials, but they have themselves listed here as curling from Horseshoe Valley, Ontario. I don't even know where in Ontario that is.
I'm Googling that right now. Oh, it's near Toronto.
Oh.
I was like, if it's right on the border of Manitoba, Ontario, but you go to Toronto and you go straight up.
Oh, so it's up towards like Barrie.
Yeah, like it's
just past Barrie.
Yeah, like it's very close to Aurelia.
Okay.
Yeah, just past Barrie. Oh yeah, and Coldwater, where Glenn Howard is from, is right around there too.
Interesting. I wonder if there was some little province hopping to make it more favorable for them to win.
Unless, like, you know, when you Google something and like you stop on like the Horseshoe Valley General Store in Indiana or something like that, and you're looking in the totally wrong part of the map.
Well, I found Horseshoe Valley Road just north of.
Okay, yeah.
Barrie. Anyways,
this is great stuff, by the way.
So if ever post Christmas or post Christmas and the holidays, you don't have much to do before the new year, you can watch some more curling. So I think that's what I'm going to be doing anyways.
Yeah, it'll give us some content.
So they're scheduled to play between December 28th to January 2nd at the Stride Palace in Portage La Prairie, Manitoba.
Good. I hope Omicron doesn't shut it down or do anything like that.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. And then in my final news point of the day, while I was preparing for this podcast, I was browsing the curling headlines, and then I read one that said Bonspiel registration is open for the space race, April 1st to 3rd in Rocket City Curling Club, a qualifier for USA Curling 5 and Under National Championship.
What? I am very confused.
So when I read 5 and under, my first thought was,
Like toddlers?
I was like, which 5-year-old is big enough to throw a curling stone?
Those kids in the, when I grow up, I want to be a superhero.
Oh, that's it. All of Curling Canada kids are going down to
That's
play
right.
this.
Years of experience and under.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the Rocket City Curling Club, which I think is a great name for a curling club,
Yeah.
is hosting the event called the Space Race. And they have a really cool logo. If you want to Google this, I don't understand the connection to space, but whatever. Will be played in Huntsville, Alabama. And this is an open to all USA curling members with 5 or fewer years of eligibility. 2020 does not count towards eligibility. So it's like a Greens bonspiel.
I'm going to make this even more confusing, Kel.
Right.
When you said Rocket City, I assumed that was, you said Rocket City, right?
Yeah. No, Rocket City Curling Club.
Right. I assumed that was a nickname for like Houston or Cape Canaveral or somewhere like that. But when you Google Rocket City, the first thing that comes up is their baseball team, the Rocket City Trash Pandas.
Trash Pandas?
Yes. I don't know if you can see their logo here.
What's a trash panda? Is that another name for like a raccoon?
Yeah, I guess so. If we're ever stuck for content, we can do a whole episode on some of the awful names of minor league baseball teams. That would be one of them. But it seems like if you want to have a minor league baseball team, you have to come up with the dumbest names.
Right. Well, I mean, there's so many.
Yeah. Major league teams are not that well named either, to be honest with you.
That's true, too.
So that is in Alabama.
Huntsville, Alabama. Yeah, it was just an interesting phrasing because the 5 and under, whenever something is X years and under, you just automatically assume age. And let me tell you, at 5 years, I think I weighed about half the amount of a curling stone.
I know. The funny thing is when you read it to me, I knew what you meant. I knew what it meant, but my first thought was the exact same thing. I was like, is this for babies?
Yeah, this is like pre-juniors, like bantam curling here.
But I was also thinking of NASA or something, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I wonder if NASA has a base in Huntsville. I know that area, they have a lot of offices.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. The name is a reference to both the area's association with the space industry, namely from Huntsville, and the determination and ingenuity of raccoons.
Hey, there you go. Trash panda, raccoons, made the connection.
Okay, hey, not bad.
Did you know, sorry, just a fun fact here. Did you know in Europe there are no raccoons, especially in England?
I did not know that.
I had an awkward moment because personal story here, but I lived in the UK for a bit. And outside our flat, there was the big trash cans where everyone, you would dump your trash in.
Right. You definitely lived in England, by the way, to call it a flat.
Yeah, well, gotta keep the lingo. And so one morning we're all having breakfast and we can see from the kitchen window straight to that trash bin, and there's trash all outside the trash bin, with the bags open and stuff. And me, as an innocent North American person, I was like, oh, the raccoons must have gotten into the trash bin last night. Because that's a very reasonable thought to have, right? Until all the British people were like, oh no, Kelly, we don't have raccoons here. And I was like, what? I thought raccoons were a universal animal that were everywhere.
They have trash pandas, though. I'm kidding.
But that and squirrels, too. No lack of squirrels.
They have squirrels?
Yeah. And
Can they take some of ours?
Yeah, seriously. But it's one of the, how cats are everywhere, horses are everywhere. Right. I just thought it was raccoons were a universal animal, but apparently not.
What about I know they have mice, but what about rats? And I'm assuming.
Yeah, they have rats. I mean,
okay.
Did you not hear about London back in the days and the Black Plague?
Well, no, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because I know Boston, you see rats there the way you see squirrels here. They're everywhere.
Yeah, they're kind of infamous too.
Yeah, they run over your feet, and it's I remember this clip of this guy, he was calling a Canadians game. They were playing in Boston, and he's like, and he's passing the puck. Oh, you hear him yell because a rat runs over his foot while he's calling.
Well, thankfully, I have yet to see a rat in a curling club, so
you can blame me on watching this Manitoba final that for the low caliber of this podcast. Did you know that I'm assuming there's mice in all kinds of curling clubs, but we used to curl, or we used to go to tournaments fairly often at a club in the Montreal area that had a mouse that would run up and down the boards.
Have I been to this club?
But so at one of our local clubs, there's I remember asking when I went there about a member or to a member being like, "Hey, do you still have the mouse that runs up and down the boards?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, Gus." Gus makes an appearance every now and then. I was like, so not only is he still there, he's got a name now.
How does Gus stay warm? Because curling clubs are not, or at least the ice part is
The ice
cold.
part, but I'm assuming Gus has access to all parts of the club.
I assume so, if he's been there for so long.
Hopefully not the beer kegs or anything like that, but but I think Gus goes where he wants in this club.
Okay. Interesting.
On that note,
do you have any parting words before we wrap up this week's episode?
I don't. We've kind of meandered all over the place here, except that it'll be very interesting to see what happens at the mixed doubles trials. We'll keep a good eye on that.
So my final parts, we've been talking about it for the past couple of weeks. But just to wrap up, that the World Olympic qualifying event has ended this week.
Yeah, there's that.
And so our girl Eve Muirhead has secured her berth to the Olympics. So we will be seeing her and her team there.
Right. And so did South Korea, correct?
Yep. For the men's, we got Italy won themselves a spot and Norway were the other.
As we predicted, I think.
Yeah. The men's.
We'll just say that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's it. So catch us next week for more random curling chatter.
Yes. And happy holidays if you're, it's right in the middle of the holidays when you're listening to this, probably.
All right. Bye.
Yeah.